Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Simon from the Wildlife Aid Foundation in Leatherhead, coming to you live. Well, nearly alive. I was asleep under the desk just now, but I've woken up, so there we are. Our friendly team is the other side. I've got Laurie in both ears, which is pretty scary, and Abby on the phone next to me, so we're all connected in this weird sort of way. So it's been busy. We've been very busy here, and it's not really slackening off very much. We've got still a lot of animals coming in, a lot of rescues going on. We've done a few of those recently. We've done quite a few with birds of prey, and I know that because Laurie wrote it on my notes that I'm reading to you right now. We've done a buzzard. Laurie, you tell us about the buzzard.
We've done a couple of buzzards actually recently. Quite a lot of grounded buzzards that are just, a lot of them are full of either capillaria or candida or sort of other parasitic conditions. A couple of grounded just because of them being quite thin and emaciated. But we've also seen a lot of kestrels in at the moment. We had a male kestrel arrive in that had been found swimming around in a water tank, which is quite unusual, but he was doing
it was nearly drowned, wasn't it? It was really,
yes.
I was going to say on its last legs, but he's on his last wings, really, I guess.
Yes, yeah. We've also had a couple of red kites in. So any one of you that follows us on our other social media platforms, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any of those, will have seen this bird arrive. And this bird had some serious feather damage to the point that he could not fly. And the issue that you get with birds of prey like this is it takes them approximately up to a year or so for the feathers to molt out naturally and grow back. And it's very, very difficult to keep a bird of prey in captivity without stressing it out or causing more problems with it trying to escape. So we actually did a process called imping, which is very, very common in the sort of falconry world, but isn't too common in wildlife rescue. And effectively you take donor feathers from a bird that sadly was found deceased. You cut those down to a very specific size in a very specific way, and you glue them into the existing shafts of the bird you're trying to save. And it's a relatively sort of straightforward thing, it doesn't take too long, and within 2 days that red kite is now flying again, which is amazing. It had a successful flight test today. Still needs a bit of R&R, but hopefully that should be going off very soon.
And Laurie has taken over. You can tell, guys, I've been asleep for the last 5 minutes and he just didn't stop. I opened him up with buzzard and then he went on with all the other animals, so I don't get a word in edgeways. So why I'm here, to be honest, I'm not quite sure why I'm here, really. I mean, you know, I'm doing my best, guys, but I can't be everywhere at once. We've got quite a lot of young swallows in. They take a lot of care and they're actually being looked after by 2 of our orphan feeders, Leslie and Helena. Doing very well. They had to be so devoted. All our volunteers are devoted, as I've said to you many times before. The hours they work, the hours they give us. But when you're feeding orphans, it's a mammoth task, and you know, we've got several other volunteers who can have up to sort of 5 or 10 babies at home at night feeding them, and you don't get a lot of sleep, you know, because by the time you finish one session you're sort of starting on the other session. So I like painting the 4th bridge, it just never stops. So again, as always, thank you to all our volunteers. We're getting a bit better for volunteers now. It was very bad during the holiday period, which we're just coming out of just about, and also because of COVID obviously, but we have now opened up our inductions again. So if anybody is listening from the local sort of area within an hour from here in Leatherhead, our inductions are open. If you want to become a volunteer, you would be more than welcome, and we're running those as and when required, courtesy of Alice. So you know, do go onto the website, fill it all in, and we'll invite you in for an induction. So we still need volunteers. We always need volunteers. We've got 370. That sadly has shrunk since COVID, and probably we've dropped maybe 60 or 70 volunteers, so we're looking to replace all of those as quickly as we can. We're going into a quieter period come November, but there's still lots going on at the moment, and if the quiet period last year was anything to go by, it just wasn't. I mean, normally from December to January it's really quiet and there's really very little to do. This year and last year particularly it wasn't, and this year I suspect it won't be as well, as we start to get our second batch of hedgehogs in. So we're starting to sort of get prepared for them. We can take anything up to 400 over the winter if we have to. Just imagine that each one will eat about half a tin of food a day, and they will be with us for 150 days. So it's not rocket science, my favourite expression, to actually work out how much food we get through. It is many tons of food just to feed the hedgehogs over the winter. So this is why your money is always useful. Thank you. I can see the money come in. Another £5 have just come in. It helps. Every pound we get, we'll feed a couple of hedgehogs a day. So it really helps. So thank you guys for that. Hedgehogs, bit of a chatting point this week because they've just been listed as vulnerable on the IUCN list, which is the International Union for Conservation, I think, of Nature, Conservation of Nature. I've got to get that right. But yeah, so hedgehogs are vulnerable. Personally, I think we will have extinction of hedgehogs within the next 10 years or so. I don't think we'll lose hedgehogs totally in the UK because we've got lots of green spaces, lots of rural areas, so they will probably survive, but we may never see them as much as we have done in the past. So, and I know already actually we've got a call just come in. It's not an urgent one, so we don't have to go now, but we have got a hedgehog which is stuck down a basement of a building, on the outside of a building. So Laurie and I have got the ladder propped up by the car ready to go down, scale down like valiant people. It's only 4 feet down, so it's not really a big scale, to get this hedgehog out and release him again. So there are lots of things going on, and hedgehogs are in desperate need of help. 96% drop in population. So we've got, Laurie has carefully put together 8 things that we could do, and there are actually more. Laurie hasn't got them all, but don't use wire fences, and if you do have wire fences and it's around your garden, just go and check it once a day. Just walk around the garden very quickly, especially tennis netting or tennis type fences, the sort of the big chain link. They can get their heads through, they obviously can't come back out again, and we get many perish that way. But any sort of wire fencing is dangerous to any animals, to be honest. So that's one thing. Always make a hole in your fence, or ask if you are at home and you've got parents, do ask your dad before you chop a 16-foot hole in your fence for big hedgehogs. It only needs to be about 5 inches round. It doesn't need to be that big, but hedgehogs need to go from one garden to the next to find food. And obviously this summer, unless you've got a pond in your garden, a lot of animals are coming in very dehydrated. Hedgehogs, birds of prey, everything. We've got a lot of dehydration cases. So a little pond in the garden, if you haven't got that, a shallow bowl of water set into the ground so they can't tip it up, would be wonderful. And if you're going to sort of give the birds a treat as well, if you haven't got a pond, just another bowl of water, but set up higher so they don't get into trouble. Slug pellets, obviously always a big no-no. They are dangerous. Everybody says, a lot of these boxes say it doesn't harm wildlife. It only harms slugs and snails and things like that. It's not quite true, because it goes through their system, then it passes through, and it can hurt hedgehogs as well. So don't use slug pellets. Crush your cans. If you find a broken can or an open can on the ground when you're on a walk, even if you can't pick it up, just crush it down, stamp on it so nothing can go in it. That's a very big important thing to do. Obviously bonfires any time of the year really, but particularly around Halloween and bonfire night, when hedgehogs are thinking about hibernating probably. So always check your bonfires first. I've done already give water on hot days. Really any dry days, if you get a week or two of dry weather, it takes a long time for that moisture to build up in the ground again. Somebody came to me the other day and said, oh look, it's been raining for 2 days. So I took him out in the garden, I stuck my spade in the ground, which went down precisely 1 centimetre before it hit rock solid earth. So it takes a while for the ground to get wet again. It takes a while for hedgehogs to be able to find water, so that's important. Always check before you go strimming. I nearly said swimming there. I was going to make a joke that Laurie got it wrong, but he didn't. He said strimming, so all does that. And if you've got a pond in your garden, as I said before, if you can build a pond, that'd be great. Always have at least 1 or 2 shallow edges. If you haven't got that, just build a ramp of wood and put a piece of toweling over the top of that so they can get traction, and then they can climb out of the pond. They can swim, but obviously they can't come up sort of great big sort of levels. So a little bit of a ramp, get the hedgehog out of the water safely, would be wonderful. I've run out of breath. Have you got your pictures out over that, Laurie?
Yes, yeah.
He did.
Yeah, so that's just 8 things. There are a whole load more things that you can do with them as well. But as Simon said, they are now listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List, and we do need to start helping our spiky friends, because I don't know about you, but I would definitely not want to see them either urban extinction or sort of national extinction, which is looking very likely in my lifetime, which is heartbreaking.
To be honest, hedgehogs are very important, but I mean all British wildlife's in trouble. We've got sort of reduction in numbers pretty much right throughout every single species. Some are more dangerous, more endangered than others, but they're all in trouble. I mean, you know, for a country of people who love animals, we're probably one of the most nature depleted countries in the world, which is pretty tragic, to be honest. So we've all got to get together. We've got to bully all our friends to do it as well. Rather like I'm going to ask you now again to bully your friends to watch the YouTube live, because the more people we get, the more hopefully they'll start to engage with nature. That's the most important thing. We want people to engage and understand why it's important to engage with nature, because we need our wildlife. Wildlife needs habitat, and it all is a big holistic must if we're going to survive through the next couple of 100 years. I personally shan't. I won't be here. Laurie has promised to cheer on the day that I go, but there we are. That's the way the cookie crumbles. I'm actually rather.
I don't remember agreeing to that.
No, I'm sure he did. But you know, the thing that worries me with Laurie really is one day something will happen to me, and if Laurie has to give me the kiss of life, I'm not sure who's going to die first, me or him, because I shall run even if I'm near to death.
That's a wonderful topic to be on, isn't it?
It is.
Very morbid.
How did we get there?
We've had a whole load of donations come in while she's been speaking, so a huge thank you to everyone who has helped out. So we've had Rebecca Rabbit has donated £10 right at the beginning of the stream. Laura Kane, who's actually one of our volunteers, has donated £2. Thank you very, very much. Mostly Sane, another £10. Evening, folks. I hope you're well and surviving the blowy weather. It is very windy at the moment, but we're doing well. Thank you very much for asking.
There's so many comments I could have made to that, Laurie. There are so many comments. I know. I am.
It's weird being the most mature person in this live stream.
I wouldn't go that far, Laurie. I would not go that far, and I think Abby would question that as well, to be honest.
She probably is. She's questioning it from my right.
So how much are 300 DKKs?
300 Danish kroner.
Where's your converter?
It rings a bell. It's about £17, but I'm not sure.
Fantastic.
Abby's currently sort of...
it's £36.
Oh, £36. I was half of it. £36. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
And a whole load more as well. Gabby's donated $10 for hello, you guys are great. Thank you very, very much for all of you for your support. As we say repeatedly, we don't get any government funding. We don't get anything that's not helped through you guys, and it's through your support that we can keep doing what we do. So thank you very much. Everything we do is done because you help us. So.
He's done it again. He keeps taking over. We're going to swap chairs soon. I'm going to sit where he sits, and I can only have to fill a quarter of the screen, and he can sit where I sit and have to fill the whole screen. So there we are.
I'm in charge of this video. I could very easily make myself bigger in the frame.
I could make comments to that as well, but I won't. I'm going to go on to rescues now, Laurie, before this whole conversation goes down the drain. Talking of drains, we had a hedgehog down a drain recently. People rang us up, and down a drain. It wasn't that far down. It was about a foot or so, just over a foot down, stuck at the bottom of a drain. Wasn't a happy hedgehog, but we've got this great miracle tool for rescuing hedgehogs in such a situation. It's a very, very long pair of alligator tweezers, alligator forceps really, so you can go down the drain, just get a couple of spines in the end of the forceps, and very carefully you can pull the hedgehog up. No worse for wear, and he trotted off quite happily. In fact, it was so funny because he wasn't in a hurry to uncurl, and we'd put some food down in front of his nose just in case when he did, and he sort of uncurled expecting him to run off, and he saw the food and spent the next 20 minutes just munching on a meal. So he obviously was a bit hungry. He might have been down there for a day or so, so he was very pleased to get his food when he was rescued. So there we are. That was a good one. What else have we done, Laurie?
We've done quite a few other things at the moment. So for those of you that donated to our boat appeal a couple of weeks, if not months ago, I'm not sure how long ago that was, we actually now have a boat, and we've used it for the first rescue. So the first one we did was a swan. So one of the swans had a fishing hook caught in its beak. We were called out to help it, and we had the new boat with the nice electric motor on it, and we did I have to say, to give you your due, you did a spectacular catch with a swan hook, and we managed to get it out. So that
What
video
else
should be
would you
coming out
expect,
very
Laurie?
soon.
Would you expect any less of me than that? It was actually a bit
No,
worse than
not
that
at all.
because the hook was in its beak. The fisherman who did it was very, very sorry that he'd done it and tried just to pull the swan towards him by pulling on the line. The swan got very agitated, so they were so scared they cut the line. So not only did he have the hook in his beak, but he had 15 feet of fishing line dangling out behind him. So my big worry was, although he was sort of all right and could still eat and still move, if that fishing line had got caught around something in the bottom of the pond or on a tree on the edge of the pond, he could have been in serious trouble. So we went whizzing out there. We tried to call him in with grain. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But then we actually had to take the boat out, and Laurie has to sort of very deftly manoeuvre the boat because he has to line me up to get a catch of the swan with the swan hook. And it's tricky. I mean, it's never that easy to do, and to be honest, I thought I'd missed that one. I didn't think I was going to get it, but luckily the swan just moved the right way and not the wrong way, and put his neck in the hook, which was really useful. Got it on the boat. The other swan came in at great speed but wasn't too aggressive, thank heavens for us. We got the hook out while we were still on the boat, and then we just released the swan over the side and they all swam off, and hopefully we'll live happily ever after. So there's my fairy story for the evening, Laurie. You talked about the red kite imping earlier on, which is cool.
Yes, yeah.
Imping is quite important, especially for birds of prey. You can actually, there is a way of making those tail feathers or wing feathers grow back more quickly. If you just actually extract the whole feather from the bird, it has to be under anaesthetic because it's incredibly painful, but it does make the new feather grow very quickly. So you can speed things up, but it's pretty drastic. So we think imping is by far the better thing to do, and obviously that feather will fall out when they molt next year and everything should be absolutely fine. And then you had a bat with fishing hook in its wing today, Laurie, I hear. I didn't see that one.
That was literally only an hour or so ago. So that turned up earlier, and it has a fishing hook right in the membrane of the wing, just above the leg sort of tail area. Luckily, that was seen by Mara and the rest of our vet team. Managed to get it out, and that has currently been transferred to a specialist bat carer who will help it recover and hopefully get back out into the wild in due course.
So fishing hooks they were being collected, there's 3 more arrived.
Just heard from Abby, whilst that particular bat was being collected, 3 more bats arrived, including a soprano pipistrelle bat as well. So not the usual common pipistrelles which you deal with, but a soprano pipistrelle, which are very noisy.
Had a very high voice. That's why it's a soprano, Laurie.
They always say you can tell a soprano pipistrelle because it's far noisier than any bat you've ever dealt with.
Well, there you are. What was the matter with the other bats? Do we know what the problem was?
They were found in a light fitting in someone's pool house. They've been there for 2 days.
Okay.
They're juveniles.
Hopefully you heard that. If not, Abby said they were found in a light fitting and they're juveniles. So hopefully they'll head off with said bat carer and be rehabilitated and prepared
released
for release
when the
back
time
to the wild.
comes. Absolutely. So lots of things. How do you catch a bat with fishing line? There must have been, I don't know, that's a bit weird.
I'm not
it must
sure.
be fishing at night. Always, all you fishermen out there, obviously, please be careful with the line. Don't discard line. If you get a hook stuck in something or a float stuck in water, try to get it out, because it's often, it is the minority, sadly, that spoil it for the majority. Most fishermen I know and have seen and been chatting to are very careful with all their line and their hooks, and if they get something stuck they try to get it out. Just some don't bother, they just sort of walk off and leave it, which is a bit sad for the wildlife. We once had a barn owl dangling from a tree because it had fishing line round its leg and that had caught on a branch and it died. So it's, it can be pretty tragic. It's not just things on the land that get into trouble, it's the birds as well, even from that. And obviously bats now, which is a first for me. That's a new thing.
Yeah. I'd be quite surprised if we ended up with a bat on the other end of a fishing line.
So these sort of conversations that we have, Laurie, on these calls are really just it's an opportunity for Lucy to speak to her mum. They don't actually speak any other time, but when they're on a YouTube live, Lucy chats to her mum. So thanks guys for paying so much attention to us here. You just keep chatting by yourselves, you'll be fine.
A couple of people have been asking about Lucy actually, so Lucy, welcome. She's joined us in the chat once again. So Lucy is one of our former vet nurses who we miss dearly. Hint, 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 hint. But well, she joins us. I'm not sure where she's joining us from. Somewhere.
She's phoning from the UK, Laurie. She's phoning from the UK. So perhaps if we were very nice to her and we could get our timings right, we might be able to pull her on one of our YouTube lives. But you and I both know if she comes on one of those, we will not get a word in edgeways for the entire hour.
At least it will be viewed by someone. We can't carry this alone.
Well, there you are. So yeah, Lucy's in the UK for a short time. I think she just come back with Sean, her husband. So we got a number 2. Laurie will be demoted to number 3 rescuer while Sean's here. Sean was a brilliant rescuer, incredible guy. He did things even I wouldn't do. Nutcase, absolute nutcase, and probably one of our, in fact, it is our biggest ever YouTube clip. Was when Sean climbed up a ladder to get a pigeon which had got its beak stuck in the side wall of a house, which is absurd. But the thing that makes that rescue so absurd, and I was absolutely terrified, is he could only get the ladder up to about 6 feet below where the pigeon was. So when he actually went for it, he actually walked to the top rung of the ladder. He just had his hands against the wall of the house, and he walked up. Well, I wouldn't have done it for anybody. I could not have done it. I would have died. And he got the pigeon, brought it down, and it was fine in the end. But that was a pretty scary rescue. Actually, it doesn't look much, but when you know he was up the top of a ladder and not even holding on to the ladder because his feet were on the top rung, that was pretty damn scary to me. Nearly as scary as your swan rescue, Laurie.
I've lost sound, Daddy.
Who takes the win? Have we lost sound? Have we lost sound, Laurie?
No, you're back. You
I'm
lost
back.
sound to me.
I
think sound is still working with everyone else, but I had no idea what you just said there.
I've no idea either, so that's absolutely fine. Nothing changes here. Whenever I give a talk, I say 2 things, and Laurie's heard this a million times. When I stand up to talk to a group of people, I have no idea what I'm going to say. The great thing about old age is when I sit down, I have no idea what I've said. So to all those people I've upset, I'm really sorry, but I don't remember.
We've had a whole load of comments that have come in over the past couple of minutes. So hopefully we'll get through a couple of those. We'll work through as many as we can. If you do have a question you want to ask myself, Simon, anyone else here, please leave it in the comments and we'll try and get to it as soon as we can. So, I'm a big fan from Lithuania. I have a question. Do stork birds nest in the UK, and have you ever had to rescue one?
The answer to that is yes, they do. They've just been reintroduced. There are storks in the UK. And we nearly had to rescue one about 2 weeks ago. Richard Simmons, the wildlife artist, rang us up and he'd seen a stork, but by the time he got out to look at it, it had sadly died. There was obviously something wrong with it. It had been spotted the night before by someone. Richard went straight out as soon as he knew. Sadly it died. So there are storks in the UK now. We haven't had one in at the centre yet, but you never know when the first one will come in.
So Will's channel of boring videos has asked, what's the smallest patient you've ever rescued?
There's so many naughty things I could say to that as well.
My brain doesn't count.
Probably, I mean, I'm sure we've stag beetle we've certainly had brought in. Earthworms we've had brought in. I'm not sure we've had bees brought in. We probably had a bee brought in, to be honest, at some point. I haven't seen it there, but even I in the summer was having to give bees little drinks of sugar water because it was so dry, they just weren't getting enough moisture. So I was out there with my spoon doing my bee impersonation, Laurie. It's quite impressive. Does that impress you, Laurie?
Yes.
Laurie's gone very quiet, guys. Laurie, we're going to show this video because it's the most embarrassing video, or one of the most embarrassing videos. I only saw a little clip of it this afternoon and I had to walk out the office. I was so embarrassed. So do you want to bang that on now? And then we'll chat about it afterwards.
Okay.
Well, a phone call to say that somebody has a badger between their house and next door's house in the middle of the day has got to be investigated. We went hot foot to the scene to find exactly that, which was very surprising. Badgers not only aren't seen during the day very much, but certainly not in the middle of a large town. The most difficult problem we had was to get this badger safely caught without it escaping and able to run off across a road and do itself some serious damage. The gap between the two houses was only some 18 inches, which is pretty much the same size as my stomach, which is very worrying. And on top of which I could only use the grasper with one hand, which didn't give me very good purchase and meant the badger could quite easily slip out of it. If the badger went backwards, it could damage somebody standing the other end of the fence, and if it went forwards, I'm sure it would have a large hunk out of my legs. So it was a little bit concerning all round. He was trying to get the badger caught and steadily and be able to get two hands around the grasper to keep the tension on it. Graspers are great instruments to catch animals, but you have to treat them with great respect because the pressure must be exactly right so it does do no harm to the animal at all. The badger, once caught, will always fight very hard. This certainly looked an extremely fit and extremely well-fed badger. It's always very tempting when you get a badger in this position to pick him up by the scruff of the neck, but please believe me when I say there is no scruff, it's all solid muscle, and you must rely on the grasper. It won't do the badger any harm, and it's certainly much, much safer for the capturers. This badger really looked extremely fit, extremely well-fed, but obviously it was important that we didn't release him during the day, or he could well end up to the same fate he's befallen now. So we take him back to the centre, have a very quick look, and that night, without much doubt, he would be back out to the wild where he belonged.
Big badge. Come on, big badge. It's time to go home.
The badger that we had caught earlier in the day between the two houses had had a check-up. He was extremely fit and extremely cross, I might add, but now it was night time, it was safe to release him back to where he belonged. We talked to a local badger group, and there was a set only about a quarter of a mile from where he was found, so this was where we were heading to now. Without doubt, and as always, the nicest part of our work is when you can release something back to the wild, and the sooner the better. We were joined by two of our own volunteers, as well as lots of local people, and a staunch supporter of ours, the Wildlife Liaison Officer from the Metropolitan Police. Badger groups are very, very useful to us because they map all the badger sets in their area, and it makes our life much simpler of how and where to put the badger back safely. Not to risk anything to luck, we still check the bottoms of fences to see if there's any badger hairs around. We check for their footprints and marks where they've gone under fences, as they definitely had here. All was left now was to open the door and hope the badger picked up the scent very, very quickly. It's always strange, you have a badger in captivity and you think as soon as you open the door they zoom out. They're always very scared to come out into an open space. Sometimes you can wait for simply ages and ages for the badger to go. Luckily this time it wasn't very long. He's scenting already, and within a few feet he'd picked up a track that he obviously recognised, and he was back and free exactly where he should be, in the wild again.
Yeah, so we're back. Laurie says we're back, so we are back. I've been reading the comments while we've been doing it. Lucy Kells has just blown her chance of being live with me on YouTube after some of her comments about my hair. That's the end of Lucy, so sorry Lucy, that's, you've blown that one right out the water. I did that rescue actually with George Holowski, who was a great mate of mine before he emigrated to Canada with my then PA, so they eloped off to Canada. I hope they're watching tonight. I just want to know why George's hair hasn't changed at all. But thank heavens above, mine has got a little shorter and a hell of a lot greyer. But you know, I don't think, honestly people, I really don't think that you should take the mockers out of my BBC voice. I was told many years ago that I had perfect intonation for BBC, and that's why I spoke like that. And I also remember I was working in London at the time, so I spoke like that a lot of the time too. And I could keep this up all night, but Laurie will probably come and hit me with something unpleasant. So we'll lose the BBC voice for a second. What else was going on in that? Oh, Simon looks, see, a rock star. That's what I should have been. I should have been a rock star. When I was very young and a choir boy, I was singing in a choir down in Brockham, and somebody came up to me and said, you know, would you like to join a band? And would you like to come to King's Canterbury, which was one of the sort of big choir schools at the time? And I didn't want to go there, so I didn't go, but apparently the band they were talking about was Queen. So I could have been a member of Queen. I would have been wealthy then, but never mind, I'm not. But I might still practice. I might still do a bit of practice to be in Queen Mark II when I regrow my hair, but never mind. Oh, I love that. You see, Simon would be a good competition for David Attenborough when it comes to calming narration. I can do David Attenborough's narration. I would love to be David Attenborough Mark II, but I think I might have a little bit of trouble with the swearing. I've never, actually, having said that, I've never sworn on live TV, and I never sworn on the series, but we had to cut so many shots during the series because I did swear, the odd swear word, it must be said, especially when I got bitten. But yeah, so it was quite fun.
Now.
Sorry?
You've jinxed it now.
What have I jinxed?
The fact you're going to end up swearing on one of these live streams.
No, I never have. I never have sworn on a live stream. I did a radio show for 2 years called Eco Hour, believe it or not, and they always used to be terrified because I used to get there about 1 minute before it was due to start, when all the other presenters got in about an hour before and did lots of prep, and I used to breeze in about 30 seconds to 8 o'clock to sit down and do the show, and never once did I swear, which is amazing to not only you but me as well.
I have to say, we were doing a live interview with I think Sky a couple of years ago, and we were in one of the pens, and as you bent down you cracked your head quite hard into a heat lamp and still maintain your composure, so I couldn't have done that.
I probably went, oh golly gosh,
Well,
what a silly
it's the sort of
chap I
impact you
was.
felt rather than heard.
Yes, what a silly chap I was. So no, I mean the rescue's always fun. I mean we have fun on these rescues sometimes. It is quite comedic. A lot of things go wrong. Usually me falling over or refusing to climb over a fence. At least my body refuses to climb over the fence. My brain gets over quite easily. But now my body, I have to get Laurie behind me. He has to sort of give me a leg up or a leg down or a leg here or a leg there, or just lift me up in his great muscly arms and carry me. He hasn't had to do that yet. He got close to it a couple of times. But there we are. So yes, it is quite fun. We had a lot of fun making the series. It'd be nice to do another one. But we've got YouTube instead. So watch us on YouTube. There will be no swearing on that either.
Well, not yet.
Sky the dog. Who said Sky the dog? Why is somebody talking about Sky? That's my dog. That's my black man.
No, not in this case. Sky in the chat is Lucy's mum.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean that, Lucy's mum. I'm really sorry for referring to you as my dog.
You're digging a hole.
Yeah, the hole's getting deeper and deeper. Yes, I'll go. Let's talk about something else. So what else have we got going on? I can't read all this chat, so I'm trying to sort of watch what I'm doing and look at my notes, and I can't see everything going on. Where can I buy the picture? What's the picture behind you, Laurie?
So the picture behind me is a print of a fox cub. It's one of the images that we've taken here of, I think, a patient last year, maybe the year before. Very kindly, a printing company sort of gave us this for free. It's printed on metal, which is quite nice. But if you do want to buy that one or any of the images that we do have on our social media, drop us an email. So media, MEDIA, at wildlifeaid.org.uk, and we'll see what we can do. You
should all know by now that we will do anything for money. We will sell anything for money, including Laurie. I would sell Laurie for the right price. But we have got a calendar coming out, Laurie, haven't we? I'm holding it in my paw right now. I'm holding the calendar.
Here's one we prepared earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. True Blue Peter. Shall I get my Blue Peter badge out as well, Laurie? and speak in my BBC accent?
You do. I don't have one of those.
It's here.
Right to Blue Peter.
I'm looking for it now. Look, I got that on a very cold February day many moons ago, and there is my green, and they were new at that stage, my green Blue Peter badge. I'm very proud of that. Very proud indeed. But we're going back to the calendar, Laurie, because you and Abby are the photographers throughout this calendar. They've got some great shots, guys. It is on sale now. I don't know how much it's selling. How much is it selling for, Laurie?
It's £10.
Cheap at a quarter of the price, I always say.
And that is available on our website, or Abby will post a link down in the chat. That is available now. We do ship worldwide as well, so if you're not in the UK, first off, hello. And if you do want one, we can get one over to you.
Look, I'm whizzing through these pictures. I'm doing mine. This is one we made earlier, picture. Oh, look, my favourite creature. A little grass snake.
Garlic,
the little devils, snake. Garlic. I always smell of garlic when you rescue snakes. Oh, bat. So we've been talking about bat. They're all there, guys. Great calendar. Great pictures by our wonderful media team. I'm only going to say that once tonight because I don't want to get them having illusions of grandeur. So, and we've got masks as well, Laurie, haven't we? We've got our COVID masks. We've got a black one and a purple one. They are for sale as well. If anybody wants one of these.
And no one can hear me because I'm currently wearing it.
Oh, well, excellent. It's the only thing that's ever shut Laurie up all day. That's brilliant. I think you should wear it every day, all day, Laurie. So yeah, we've got that as well. Lots of stuff going on. What else we've been? So we've got the hedgehog down the drain. We've done the swan with a kite, the bat with a wing. Oh, the Egyptian goose. We had an Egyptian goose with line round its feet, didn't we? That was quite recent. We thought we were going to have to get the boat out for that, but luckily it was on land, and we managed
right
to catch
on the
it
bank.
just when it was quite lucky actually, and it was intentional. But I managed to get behind it with my net to stop it going in the river, which was intentional because the lorry then got it when it went landwards, and as it took off he did a very, very masterful catch. I hate being nice to Laurie. It really upsets me when I have to be nice to him.
It's really weird.
It's weird for me, Laurie. It's weirder for me than for you, I can assure you. But he actually did a great swinging catch. So I stopped it going in the water, so I'm far more important. But it flew up, Laurie caught it, and we managed to get the line off and it went straight off. So that was another successful rescue. And then we had the hedgehog, didn't we? A very, very fat hedgehog decided to go into a rat trap. It was a humane trap, which is good. But of course hedgehogs he fitted very tightly in, and when he tried to back out, his spines were through the sort of the mesh and he couldn't come out. So he actually had to completely desecrate the trap to get him out. We had to cut it to pieces. Poor chap, when I gave his rat trap back, I don't think he was too pleased because it's never going to be used for that again, which is a good thing. But the hedgehog was unperturbed, wasn't he? He trotted off quite happily, and the guy took him back home.
A couple of people have been asking recently for an update on one of the patients that we posted a video on recently, a young fox cub actually, that we did an orthopedic operation on with the fantastic surgeon Angus Anderson and Fred, his sort of assistant. Did an absolutely spectacular operation. You've only seen the start of it at the moment, but the cub is doing absolutely fantastically. So that was filmed a little while ago. That frame was on for quite a while, about 6 weeks. That's now been removed. The leg is looking really, really good. The fox is running around and acting entirely as a fox should. And that fox is currently with the last of our fox cub groups, who are due for release this Thursday. So that fox should be heading back to the wild this Thursday. We will be filming that, and we will be bringing it to you once that's done. So stay tuned for that one.
Stay tuned for that one. I'm going to say, just to please Tom now, I'm going to say, stay tuned for that one, guys. Everybody hates me saying guys all the time. I don't know why.
You're well known for guys and right, apparently, according to YouTube.
Yeah, right, yeah.
We have a right count on certain videos.
Excellent. And then we had a peregrine in a wall. That was another. Yes,
we did.
Some of these rescues are slightly embarrassing because you know you're going to create carnage at this poor man's house. So we went to a house. We were told there was a peregrine had fallen down the chimney, and I really thought it was going to be something totally different and not a peregrine. So I'd rather let the cat out of the bag because it was a peregrine. And we could see it through the sort of fire brick thing on the side, on the outside. And of course the only way to get to it was to smash that sort of grid brick to pieces. And then we thought it was going to be a nightmare to get the peregrine out because it's only quite a small hole. And I just put the cage up to see if it would fit, to see if I could get it up tight against the wall. And the peregrine very kindly hopped out from where he was straight into the cage, and that was job done. So right. You can laugh now, Laura, if you like. Oh dear.
A few more donations have come in. Thank you so much to everyone who is helping us out with those. So the Warrens donated €25, but all the best from the Netherlands. Thank you so much. Alicia has done $35 and put, I love your channel and the education you help to provide for wildlife. That's really appreciated. Thank you very much. That's one of the purposes of the channel, wasn't it, originally, to try and educate as well as entertain?
It was.
So
I think.
It's great that you think that.
I think the thing I really love too is when you know all these series were now, you know, many years ago. It started in 1997, the series, and you sometimes even now get a call up saying, "Oh, I remember watching that episode," which must have been at least 10 or 15 years ago, saying, "Oh, I saw what you did and I could do it, or I knew what to feed it because I'd watched that episode," and that's the educational side. So it's sort of subliminal education, which is pretty useful. So that is a good thing.
Yeah, a couple more donations. Linda Harris has donated $4.99 and $1.99 on separate occasions. Thank you very, very much to you. And WJFC_521 has donated £1.99. But what area do you rescue in? Have you done any in Essex? We have actually done rescues in Essex. We tend to stick to about an hour to an hour and a half radius from the centre, just because there are other centres closer to other things that can get to site and deal with it quicker. But if we are needed for certain things in other areas, we will travel further.
Yeah, I think a lot of rescues we sort of get called to. You don't know whether the people have called someone else, so they might get there before you. Or often is the case, either the animal's got up and gone by the time you get there if you're more than an hour away, or it sadly died. So we do go where we need to go. We will go any sort of distance if it's the right sort of rescue and our expertise is needed. Because as everybody knows, particularly Laurie, I love the really challenging rescues, the really difficult ones which you just think you can never get. And sadly we haven't been thwarted yet, have we, Mr. Brayley?
No, not yet. Just touch wood on that one.
The only thwart I've got is Laurie Brayley. He's a bit of a thwart. But never mind.
There are no comments I can make.
Very old-fashioned word, thwart. So we've got the fox cubs going to them.
Yeah, so a couple of people are asking repeatedly, actually, do we like Egyptian geese? Yes. We like all manner of British wildlife. We don't discriminate here. If something needs help and we are able to help it, then we will. So yes, we do like Egyptian geese.
That's the only reason we actually took Laurie in the first place, because he needed help. And his mum begged me. I mean, she begged me to take him in. So what could I say? He's a bit like his own version of wildlife, Laurie Brady, really.
Anyway, Janet
moving
asked
swiftly
if we ever
on.
had any migrating ospreys in at WAF. I think if we had done, I'd have gone over the moon, because they're my favourite bird, ospreys.
Bit too far south of them, I think, Laurie, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. We tend to get ospreys more towards Scotland. You do occasionally see them sort of drifting a bit further south, but not anywhere near down to our area. There has been a recent, very successful release project of white-tailed sea eagles down on the Isle of Wight, which is right on the south coast. So you never know, we might see one of those. One has flown over Reigate, which is about 20 minutes drive from us. So you never know, we may see one of those, but we hadn't seen any red kites up until a couple of years ago, and now they're relatively common to see here. Same thing with peregrines and a couple of others, so you never know. We'll deal with it when it comes in.
So FXP 1688, who do we appreciate?
Sven.
100 euros. Sven's back again, and he's got his calendar right now, because last year they'd all sold out and he was very upset.
Oh,
so
sorry
Sven, we
that,
can't have you being upset, Sven. Never mind.
I love how every single person in the comments immediately recognises Sven now. He's become more of a character than we are.
I think Lucy's flirting with him personally. I bet she hasn't told Sean.
Oh God!
It's all a laugh here, isn't it, Mr. Brayley? It's all a laugh, innit?
It's Spooky Wolf YT is asked, do we do rescues in the north of England? It's the same thing. We tend not to do anything over there because there are other rescues in that area that can deal with things a lot quicker than we can. With a lot of these, time is of the essence, and it makes a lot more sense for other rescues or even the RSPCA's wildlife division to deal with those rather than us to sort of take their 4, 5, 6 hour journey up to do it.
I mean, we do give a lot of advice. I gave advice to somebody who's right up north the other day. He had a hedgehog under his house, and you know, we were chatting away, and I said, yeah, we'll come up and have a look at it. He's miles and miles up north, so it was impossible. So I sort of sat and tried to visualise the situation, and suggested that he put a sort of very long, not too steep plank down from his house floor down into the basement, and covered that with towel, and then put a bit of food on the plank all the way going up, and lo and behold, he rang me back about 3 hours later to say that this hedgehog had very nimbly gone up the towel, ate the food, and had disappeared. So, you know, we can give advice, we can, it's hard to explain, but you can actually visualise a lot of rescues. When somebody rings and talks to you, my head's sort of whirring as to what I do to try to get that animal out of that situation, and providing they give you quite an accurate description, there's not many times when you can't work out what you would have probably have done when you get there. So we can advise all over, and we've even advised for people abroad. I once was sitting in my chair here, and somebody rang up about an injured lion cub they'd found in Zambia, and sadly they didn't ask me to go and get it because I would have been out there like a shot, but we knew the people who'd worked out there, and within 20 minutes this lion cub was safely in a sanctuary in Zambia. I just very hacked off that I couldn't go and see it myself, but never mind.
One day we might have wildlife festivals abroad.
Who knows?
A couple of people are asking, have we noticed any increase in issues caused by masks, gloves, other things that people are using a lot more at the moment?
I don't think we've had any here that I know of directly. We have certainly seen them on the news and on newspapers in the press where animals have got stuck in masks and in the gloves as well. So if you do, and it's amazing when you walk along the street. I mean, I picked up one today. And you know, it was just lying on the floor. I mean, if you do see these things, guys, just pick them up and shove them in a bin, please. Gloves particularly, because they could get swallowed by something, or when they start to break down they could peck bits of plastic off it. And the masks, obviously, the elastic, all these things are dangerous. Any litter is potentially dangerous for wildlife, so if you do see litter and you can pick it up or do something, please, please, please do so, because it's very likely that it will save a wild animal.
Yeah. It's actually, we've had in the comments, Fanatics has said, I saw a dead cygnet with a mask around its neck. Another rescue centre close to us, I think South Essex Wildlife Hospital, they had a gull in with a mask wrapped around its legs. We've seen a lot of ingestion of gloves and things like that. It's a difficult thing. Everyone's having to wear these masks when discussed, but please, if you are wearing masks, wearing gloves, if you have to where you are, please do the sensible thing, and when you have to dispose of it properly. Wildlife does not know that that's not food, that that's not something that it can go near, and it will very easily end a life that could very easily have been spared. So
very important. And just a message for Abby from Adam is he's had his dinner, he was eating a pizza, which is why I only signed in late, so his penance is to give us £14.99. So thank you, Adam, for that. I hope you enjoyed your pizza. We've actually got to go straight out from this to a hedgehog rescue, so we're not even going to get a pizza when we finish this, but never mind.
A few more donations as well as Adam. Thank you, Adam. Elena Harris has donated £1.99 once again, so thank you very, very much. And Scottish Astronomer, who's another regular here, hello, has donated £25, has put, I hope you're keeping well. Why do the gulls around where I live make so much noise in the middle of the night? Could it be the light nights we've had up here? P.S. Come on up to Scotland and see our otters and ospreys.
Oh, don't start.
I am going to be there tomorrow if I can.
You're not going, Laurie. I'm going to go. Sorry, you've got to stay here and run the centre. Somebody's just said if only there were rescue centres near Richmond. We do go out to Richmond quite frequently, guys. So providing that's Richmond in the UK on the Thames, if you get anything over there, we do go out to Richmond. Not unregularly, to be honest.
There is a Richmond in America.
There is a Richmond in either America or Canada, according to
I know, I was just slightly worried that it
We
might
will
not
go
be
out
one.
to there as well.
Yeah, if you pay the flights, we'll
I'm not
definitely come
averse
out
to
there. Absolutely.
A few more questions that have been coming in. So Linda Harwood asked, Simon, in the USA we see chain link fences with wooden slats inserted into them. Is this safe? Also, is putting beer out for slugs a bad idea if pellets are proven to be bad?
I actually think the slugs love it. There's nothing like a bit of beer for a little slug. I don't know if it's bad for them or not. I don't think it does them any particular harm, does it, Laurie? Unless they drown in it. That wouldn't be so funny. We should all love everything, really. We should always love all wildlife.
Beer is used as a slug trap. They're attracted to the sweetness of it, and then it's used as like a pitfall. They fall in and they drown. So it's used as an alternative to slug pellets. The best way of doing it, to be honest, you can either put wool or coffee grout or stuff like that, or even Vaseline around plants. That would discourage them as well. I believe, I've forgotten what the product name is. There's quite a good humane slug deterrent as well that's made of like woolen fibres. And that we've certainly had a lot of success with that for the times that we've used it. So I would recommend that one.
It's very difficult when we should love all wildlife. I can't say I'm particularly enamoured with slugs, and the only things in this centre who love slugs are badgers. If a slug goes into our badger enclosure, it doesn't last very long. Badgers absolutely love them. So, but poor slugs. Perhaps we should start a slug rescue charity.
I've just been told as well from Scottish Astronomer that the kettle is on. So I'm currently off to Scotland. See you later.
Okay. That's Laurie. Abby, you're promoted. Laurie is history. We'll just lock him in his caravan. That'll stop him going anywhere. That's the way to stop him doing anything.
I've been told there's a pandemic and I'm not allowed to leave.
Yeah.
See, that's a good excuse. I started that for a reason.
I would absolutely love to go up. As a couple of you may know, I went relatively recently, before the whole pandemic thing, up to Shetland to photograph otters, and that was absolutely incredible, and I'd love to go back. And otters are my favourite bird. Not otters. Ostriches are my favourite
Laurie,
bird.
thank you for that one. That's the Laurie mistake of the night.
Yeah. You see, this is why I'm never in front of the camera.
There's another flying. Oh, Laurie, there's an otter just flying over now. I can see it.
We'll have to rescue it. Make sure you get a good catch with the net. Abby, you got the camera ready?
Yeah.
It's in the midst of a whole flock of pink pigs as well, so I don't feel we can get to it. So, guys, I don't know what.
Be careful, you get that nasty bite from the osprey.
Absolutely, very dangerous, very dangerous. What other questions are we being asked? Haven't been watching this train of words all the way down.
We've got a lot. The Nick Slick has asked, does the UK have any venomous native species?
Yeah, Laurie Braley. And Abby, when she's in a bad mood. That's why Adam tries to keep her here and has his own dinner.
Why do we still work
just in
for
case.
Dare you?
How dare you? She said. How dare you? We've only got one really, and that's the adder. Not particularly dangerous to people. It gives you a nasty bite. It can give you a bit of a headache. You should always go and get checked to hospital anyway. But it is quite dangerous for dogs. So if your dog gets bitten by an adder, you should take it to the vet because it can be a bit more lethal for dogs. But that's the only venomous snake we have here. We don't have any venomous birds. We have venomous employees sometimes. But that's about it, really. Can you think of anything else venomous, Laurie?
Not particularly. There are a couple of things that certainly in the caterpillars and stuff like that you wouldn't necessarily want to touch. But other than the main venomous species, we're actually quite free of them.
We are.
There is actually, I believe there's a scorpion that can be found in the UK, but it's not particularly bad. But I've never seen one.
I think Lucy Kells is taking the Michael out of you, Laurie. Here,
oh, many people are taking the Michael, and justifiably. To be
absolutely
honest.
justified.
I'm going to have to Photoshop wings on an otter for the next live stream.
Or even a low-flying elephant, as I just read on the stream.
Very low flying.
It does be very low flying at like 5 ton.
So guys, we're getting near to wind up because we have got to go on this rescue. It's not a desperate one, otherwise we would have gone a long time ago, but it's literally just stuck at the bottom of a 4 or 5 feet dip. They put some food down for it, so all we've got to go and do actually is shin over the top of the fence, put a ladder down, pick it up and let it go again. So it's quite an easy one, and it can go around, it can go about its way quite safely. But do get your friends to sign into this. Please get them to watch these streams, because the more people we can get engaged, the better for us, obviously, and the more views we get, and watch the channel, because the channel's hopefully interesting to you all. If you've got any bright ideas or anything you'd like us to do, anything you particularly like to see, that's legal of course, please tell us about that as well, because I would like to do things you want us to do, not just chat at you, because I'm so boring when I do that. I nearly swore then actually, but I stopped myself just in time. So yeah, anything you want us to do, anything you particularly like to hear about, see, any videos you like to see, anything you like explained, we are very happy to do that, aren't we, Mr. Braley?
We are. We should also say as well that thanks to Sean, who's been working on this for quite a while, we have a Patreon coming soon as well. So for those of you who've been asking about Patreon, it is coming soon. We will be launching it hopefully within the next couple of weeks. So if you can support us on there, that would be absolutely fantastic. For those of you who don't know about Patreon, effectively it's a monthly donation platform where you can pledge a certain amount, you get rewards for each tier that's there, but it just helps us out with a bit of money just for uploading the content that we do. So keep an eye out on that one.
Absolutely. Somebody's just asked on here, Laurie, somebody just said, what's Simon's favourite piece of equipment? The answer to that is the piece of equipment I'm going to need to do a certain rescue, and I'll never know what it is until we get to the rescue. So I have lots of favourite pieces of equipment, very specific for certain types of rescues, and I love them all, basically.
That was wonderfully like non-specific.
It was very careful, Laurie. It was a very careful answer.
So, as we're in the last couple of minutes, should we do a bit of a sort of quick fire question round as well? So we did this last time as well. A couple of you quite liked it. So we'll just try and get through as many questions as we can in a reasonably short time. So, number 1, have you ever rescued a coot?
Yes.
Yes, we have. Janine, do you have any long-term patients, or do you limit the time that you will keep any one animal?
We have longer term patients. Obviously the orphan's always with us for the longest term, but we don't keep any animal. I do not believe a wild animal should ever be in captivity. And you know, actually most animals, and obviously all birds, you're not allowed to keep in captivity. It is illegal. Next.
It's Spooky Wolf YT is asked, there appears near a local pond has an injured Canada goose which appears to be limping. What can be done?
That's very difficult. We get a lot of calls like this. We get a lot of calls for angel wing or aeroplane wing, whatever you want to call it. They're actually all fine. They'll never fly, but they'll be fine. Depending on why it's limping, how it's limping, if it's doing well, if it's managing to survive. Because often if it's a very bad leg injury, if it goes into wildlife hospital, it will probably be put to sleep because there's nothing you can do for it more than it is. So if it can live out and survive in the wild and you can keep an eye on it, monitor it, that's probably the best thing to be done with that one.
Faye has asked, in Ireland it's against the law to cut bushes, trees, hedgerows, etc. from the start of March to the end of September for the protection of nesting birds. Do we do anything similar in England?
We have exactly the same protections here. It's illegal to cut certain things, and if a surgeon wants to go and do anything particular, he's got to look at the area first. He's got to do a survey first to make sure that everything's safe for him to do it. So yes, the protections are pretty much the same as Ireland, I suspect.
Missy Kim has asked, what's your least favourite animal to rescue?
The one that's very difficult that I miss, which hasn't happened yet. I don't have a least favourite.
Red deer.
Red deer I send Laurie on. Laurie and I went out to a fallow deer the other day actually. It had got stuck, it got its antlers stuck in electric fencing, and it had wrapped itself around a tree. And fallows are quite big, and there are only 2 of us, so we had to be really careful how we did the rescue. So we'd figured out how we could actually do it, and just as we got the big net which we were going to surround the deer with so we could hold the deer tightly to get the fencing off, it actually broke loose. So it broke loose with the electric fencing wire still around its antlers. Luckily it was only its antlers, so it'll probably shake it off in due course, but it was one of those rescues. I don't pay a lot of attention to doing sort of a very accurate, it's not health and safety, what's the word I want? We used about 8 times today, Laurie.
Red tape. Well,
no,
risk assessment. Risk assessment is what you're thinking.
And this thing had 2 of these big, the actual poles the wire goes on, which were plastic, about, I don't know, 1 metre long, with a dirty great metal spike at the end. So even then I begin to think of risk assessment, because Laurie was all for going jumping on this deer, and sadly I wouldn't have let him do it because it was far too dangerous. You do have to be careful. We do, believe it or not, do a risk assessment on every rescue, but because we've done so many, we know exactly what to look for, we know exactly what to be careful of, and we are, when necessary, very careful.
Have you ever had to rescue a whooper or a Buick swan?
I've
certainly seen a whooper.
So many comments I could make of that as well, Laurie. I can't, my brain's completely gone now.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes, guys. Black swans. We've done black swans as well, obviously.
Yes, we have. Crystal A, is it true hedgehogs could be declared extinct by 2028?
I don't. Who knows? I don't think they're going to be extinct in this country, to be honest. I think there will be urban extinction, as we said earlier on. I don't think they'll be extinct. I don't think that will happen. And if it is, I shall start shooting people, because if we've lost hedgehogs by that time, we've lost a lot of other wildlife as well. We've got to keep our rural areas open. We've got to keep enough habitat for them, and we've got to stop building so many houses where we just don't have any green space left. It's getting a bit to that point, guys. We've got to start being a bit sensible.
Have you had to rescue any animals from each other? For example, antlers that are stuck together during rutting?
Only abroad. We had to do it with a couple of elands when I was in South Africa, or somewhere, I think it was South Africa. They actually got stuck together, and they're quite long antlers on those things. It's quite scary, but they did get locked together. We've had to rescue foxes that have got locked together, and we probably won't go too far into that one just at the second. But it's a natural. It's a natural act. It happens every year, usually the same time of year, just after Christmas. So if you see that, they haven't been super glued together, guys. It's just a natural thing that will get better very soon.
Former friend Lucy Kells has asked, how many otter birds have you rescued?
I'll let you answer that one, Laurie.
I don't know. We've done quite a few. They can be quite difficult because they're very violent and they fly very quickly. We've tried to tranquilise them, but it doesn't work particularly well. We've not come up with a good rescue strategy. So if you do have any ideas, please do let us know. A few more donations, just quickly going through a couple of those. So Ali TK, £25, thank you very, very much. Nigel Grant has put, I found a £10 note the other day, you can have it. Thank you very much, Nigel, that's very kind of you. For those of you who don't know, Nigel has in the past raised well over £10,000 for us, so huge thank you, and he's still continuing to raise vast amounts of money for other charities.
He's a little
has just
starlet.
donated $5 and Elena Harris has just donated another £4.99. So thank you so much for every single one of you that has helped us out throughout the chat.
I need to understand why £4.99. Why is it always this something 99? I never quite understand why that is.
I think it's something to do with YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I think it's something to do with YouTube.
Who knows?
Flitterby, have you ever had to trank any of your rescues?
We have tranked on rare occasions. We have to be very careful. Trank. It's all very well to say, "Oh, we can trank that," and you know, because I'm very old. I can remember a series called Dactari about Clarence the Cross-Eyed Lion, and it was a sort of American TV thing, and they used to sort of trank things down with a tranquilizer rifle. And as soon as they fired the rifle, this animal just hit the deck and was tranked straight out. In real life, tranquilizing can take anything from 4 to even 10 minutes to go down, so it's not as easy as that. So if you imagine if you're tranking something in a large area, if you had a sort of a large needle enter your posterior and it really hurt, you tend to run. And if that animal can run or whatever, we were never going to catch it. We're not only going to find the dart, but the animal could suddenly go down in water. We trank very rarely because we're not in the sort of habitat that allows us to trank. We're not in the middle of the tundra where you can follow it from a helicopter and know when it's going to go down. You know, you're either in a school playing field or a field where there's woods and roads everywhere around you. So we had to be very careful. We do have the ability. I have got a tranquilizer license, and actually I had it out the other day when one of my vet friends was here, and we were just wondering whether I still knew how to use it. I think I do. So the answer to that is not very often.
Anna's asked, what type of training and for how long do you need to do your type of job?
About 68 years, really, because I'm still learning how to do it. You never stop learning. I mean, the first few rescues you do are pretty scary. When I started, there wasn't the sort of luxury of watching other people's YouTube channels or watching wildlife rescues on television. Every rescue is individual. You never know quite what the animal's going to do, obviously, so you have to be prepared for everything. I always say, and people say, why can't you write a book about how to rescue? A lot of it is just instinct. You either have it or you haven't. I'm very, very lucky, and I thank God that I have got it. I seem to know roughly what I'm doing. But you never stop learning. I mean, there's new techniques, there's new things coming out all the time. We actually went out to a squirrel which had gone into a office in a school the other day, and this squirrel, it wasn't captive, so we're allowed to let it go out of the window. It wouldn't go. It just sat under this photocopier for ages and ages, and Laurie was one side, I was the other, and we were prodding and pushing and whatever, and all it did was growl at us for ages. And then I suddenly remembered that I had a mini grasper. Years ago I made a mini grasper, what I call a squirrel grasper, which we could just get under. And it took me ages, but I eventually got it round its neck and gently eased it out, and it ran straight out of the window. Not at all grateful, but there we are, that's how life goes.
A few other ones. N. Bonnie, have you ever rescued a boar?
Yeah, Laurie.
Knew that was coming.
Everyone a winner. No, we do. There are some wild boar around, so I'm told, and not too far from here. And there's some down in, I think there's some down in Ashdown Forest, aren't there? So I was told.
Yes. Yeah.
We've never been out to one. If we do go out to one, I'll be right behind Laurie, because they are vicious little critters, to say the very least. And an adult one is even more viciouser than a baby one. So not yet. I expect it will happen, and I expect we will be very careful, and I expect I will be behind Laurie. And if Laurie's got any sense, he'll be behind Abby.
Faye's asked, have we seen an increase in trichomoniasis cases, canker cases? We've seen an awful lot of that at the centre at the moment. There's an awful lot of birds with canker. Seen a lot of canker, seen a lot of pox at the moment. There's
all sorts of virusy things around this time of year, isn't it? It seems to be quite common for it. Everybody's getting that sort of trouble. Our great secret friend, who we can't talk about who does love the odd pigeon, is getting a lot of birds that are just suddenly sort of walking around the field, don't want to go anywhere, and within 24 hours they're dead. So I've even got a mention into to the secret lady who we can't talk about. But yes, there's a lot of pigeon problems around. Whether it's a bit of a spillover from the very dry summer and the lack of hydration, I don't know. But we are getting some in here, I must admit.
We've also just had a donation of $50 from Terry Martins as well. Huge thank you to you, Terry. That's very kind. Last couple of questions. So, Rebecca Rabbit has asked, do you guys ever have problems with animals injured in fox hunts?
Not that I can recall. Whether something is from an injury of a fox hunt, it's been brought in later. I've never had direct contact with fox hunting problems. If I did, I think you'd have to keep me a long way from the fox hunters, to be honest, because I do get quite upset about that. But so the answer is no, as far as I'm aware.
We have seen a lot of quite nasty cases with foxes, though. We have the fox that was shot through the neck with a crossbow bolt as well. Luckily, made a full recovery. That video is on the channel.
So George
you've seen that
Holowski
in a goose as well, haven't you? A crossbow bolt through the foot.
George has just said goodbye, so I'm going to say goodbye to George because he's got to go, and hello Susan, and goodbye Susan. Give me a call because she never does. We're just past, we're really running on. I am conscious of this rescue we've got to do, and it is now dark, so we're going to have to sort of take a big torch with this, Mr. Brayley.
So I think maybe that's a good time to wrap it up then. So I think, would you like the last word, or would you like me to say, I hope your otter birds fly perfectly straight?
It's so rare for you to give me the last word, Laurie, and I bet I have the last word now, and he'll still stick a little something on the end of it because he always tends to. So guys, as always, thank you for watching. Please give us your questions. Please give us any ideas that you've got that we can help you with. Get us some more viewers. Keep supporting us, because every penny we get from you helps us save some more wildlife, which is fantastic. And it's thanks to you, and obviously thanks to all our volunteers and our staff, that we can keep going the way we do. As I get older and older, I need them more and more and more and more. So guys, it is goodbye from me, and I'm sure Laurie's going to say it's goodbye from him as well.